Hello everyone, we're back. I wanted to give you a further point on saw safety with radial arm saws. This is a really crucial one because it's where a lot of accidents have happened with these saws and where they kind of got a bad rap from people using them incorrectly. So when you are using your radial arm saw with proper safety features such as the blade guard and the splitter back here with the anti-kickback pawls, it's kind of difficult to screw this up, but some folks out there, maybe they bought their saw off of Craigslist or eBay or what have you, and maybe when they bought the saw it didn't include the blade guard, or maybe it didn't include the anti-kickback mechanism there. So if you don't have those, frankly, I don't really recommend using the saw. I recommend trying to source those parts as soon as possible before you use it, because otherwise you're risking some serious injury. In addition to that, the blade guard also has your dust collection, which is, this respiratory safety, right? So I just finished ripping a piece of plywood on here, 1/2-inch plywood for the cabinet that I'm building, and I need to rip the second piece. It's a little bit thinner, so basically my line wasn't that great, and this is about the 1/16 of an inch, maybe 3/32 too wide, so I got to rip it down. So radial arm saws, doesn't matter what brand, who makes it, they have two different capabilities. One's called out ripping, and one is called in ripping. So currently this saw is configured for out ripping. The blade relative to the motor is outward from the column where you lift and lower the blade. In ripping is where you can do narrower cuts. Out ripping allows wider cuts. So right now, if I want to rip this piece of 1/2-inch plywood, rip it down a little bit narrower, I have two positions for my fence options. I have a forward position and a rearward position. The forward position, because I'm working with narrow stock, is the ideal one in this situation. So what I'll do is I'm going to bring my saw back so that I can take another 3/32 of an inch or so off of this board. However, look at that. This saw is all the way back as far as it'll go, because the back of the motor is bumping against the column, and in this position I'm not cutting my board at all. So how do we fix this? With a radial arm saw, we have to reconfigure it for in ripping, and watch as we do that. Take it out, loosen up the indexing lever here, pull up the pin so I can index the blade, and now I'm at my cross-cutting position. Index one more time, and now we're at an in rip. So in ripping, I'll get my board out of the way. With this fence in its current position, I can cut all the way up against the fence. I can go way closer because I still have probably 4 or 5 inches here between the blade and where I would be hitting the column. So I can go very narrow stock with very narrow rips with an in ripping configuration. The crucial safety point is how you feed your stock. So we're going to set it back up for out ripping, which is where we had it before. So on the blade guard itself, I don't know if you could read this or not, it plainly says, do not rip or plow from this end. Looking at the direction of the teeth are sort of, and of course the direction of blade travel more importantly, the blade rotates this way. If I fed stock from this direction, first of all, the only way I can do it is if I either did not have my splitting knife positioned properly, or if I didn't have it all together, because otherwise it would block your wood. If it's at a proper position, it would block the wood from coming in there. But if I don't have it and I feed stock in, this blade is going to grab it, rip it, force feed it, and launch it across the room through the paneling of the wall down here. It has a tremendous amount of power, and those teeth are going to grab it and launch it right out of your hands. And if your hands are in a position where they're too close to the blade, they can get pulled into the blade as well. And there goes your fingers. So, when you are ripping stock, you are feeding against the direction of saw travel. So the saw is essentially trying to push the board against you, but you're using your body mass and proper alignment of the splitter here and the anti-kickback pawls. That's plenty to have your stock feed smoothly through without any binding and without kickback. Now I'm going to do, so I just fed my stock from the left here to the right. So I'm going to do an in-rip because my out-rip configuration is too wide. So we're going to set this back up. And I'm not going to set my positioning at this point, not for this demonstration, but when I'm ready to make this next cut, I have to feed my stock from right to left now. Because again, since I indexed this so that it is now, the blade is on an in-rip configuration, I cannot feed from this direction. Otherwise, it's going to grab the stock and launch it at my lathe over there. So, major safety point. So now that I've got this switched around, I'm going to feed here from right to left and make my rip. Alright, figured I'd point that out to you guys because, like I said, it's a major safety point and safety note on these radial arm saws. And again, it was one of the key criteria that gave them a bad rap because people weren't paying attention to what they were doing. When you use these things with common sense and safety, it can be a very safe and tremendously productive, versatile, and space-saving tool for ripping and cutting any kind of wood. So it does a very good job. It's not the tool that's the problem, it's just bad operators making mistakes, not paying attention to what they're doing. Alright, that's it. Thank you.